Hungry and left to starve, the poor waitress fed the orphaned alien baby dragon for a decade. Then, the first time Mara saw the baby dragon, it was shivering in the dumpster behind Moonlight Diner, half covered in trash and buzzing flies. It was small, barely the size of a house cat, and glowing faintly blue beneath the muck. Its wings were torn, its eyes half-lidded, and it made no sound, not even a cry. She was 17 then, scraping together night shifts at the spaceport's cheapest diner just to feed herself and her little brother. She barely made enough for soup, let alone pets. But she couldn't walk away. Not when it looked up at her like that. Not when it was clearly dying. She wrapped in her apron and whispered, "You'll freeze out here. I don't care what you are." The next week, she smuggled it into the apartment, hid it under a laundry pile when inspectors came, fed it leftover scraps from the kitchen, burnt toast, overcooked eggs, bones from customers' plates. She scrubbed clean with a rag. It didn't purr, didn't chirp, but it stayed. And every time she thought it might die, it surprised her, nuzzling her hand with its blunt nose, or flaring those tiny wings to warm the air. She called it Ember. 10 years passed. The dragon grew, not large enough to ride, but large enough to knock over furniture. It curled up beside the heater in winter, protected the windows from local thieves, snuck out at night to bring Mara's shiny trash like it was treasure. Mara grew too, from teenage waitress to assistant cook, then to diner manager. She never got rich, but the customers loved her smile, and some came just to hear the story of the invisible roommate she joked about. She never told anyone the truth, not even her brother, who left for an off-world mining job at 19 and never looked back, because she knew what would happen if the government, or worse, the Intergalactic Reclamation Authority, found out what she'd been hiding. Alien creatures, especially dragons, were supposed to be registered, tagged, controlled, not raised like family. Then, one day, everything changed. Mara was taking out the trash when the ground trembled, the diner's windows shook, and in the sky above the port, a black battleship descended. No insignia, no warning. Everyone around her screamed. She didn't, because she saw what no one else did. A symbol burned into the ship's hull, the sigil of the Zarashi Dominion, the same sigil that had been branded into Ember's wing when she was a baby. They had come for her. She ran, through alleyways, down back tunnels, across steaming heat vents that burned her boots. When she got home, Ember was already awake, sitting at the window like a sentry, wings pressed tight to her back. "They found you!" Mara gasped, grabbing her emergency pack. Ember growled low, not in fear, but in rage. "We can't fight them, girl. Not alone." But Ember didn't move. Instead, she stepped forward, touched her forehead to Mara's chest, and let out a soft, vibrating hum. Her body shimmered, then twisted. Mara stumbled back as Ember changed. Scales folded inward, bones rearranged. Wings vanished into her back like mist. And in the blink of an eye, where the dragon stood, was a woman, barefoot, glowing blue eyes, silver markings down her cheeks. Not human, but humanoid. "You spoke," Mara whispered, stunned. "I learned," Ember said, voice rough like wind through gravel. "I waited. I watched you for 10 years. Mara's knees buckled. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed to be sure." "Sure of what?" "That when my people came, I would know who'd protect." The building exploded moments later. A blast tore through the top floor, vaporizing the window where Ember had stood. Mara screamed, but Ember shielded her, wings bursting free once more in a halo of energy. Black armored soldiers descended from the smoke. Zarashi hunters. "Return the rogue." Their leader barked, "She is Dominion property." Ember growled, and in one swift motion, breathed fire. Blue flame engulfed the front steps. The soldiers shrieked, weapons melting in their hands. Mara ducked behind the wall, heart pounding. Ember stood in front of her, taller than ever, glowing with heat and fury. She had never looked like a pet. She looked like a queen. They fought their way out. Ember tore through armored drones and war beasts with talons of searing plasma. Mara shot 2 soldiers with stolen sidearm, refusing to be left behind. They reached the spaceport just before dawn. "I have a ship," Ember said, "buried beneath the city. I was waiting until I was strong enough." Mara grabbed her hand. "I'm coming with you." Ember hesitated. "They'll hunt us forever." "They already are." Ember stared at her and then nodded. Together, they vanished into the tunnels below the city. 6 months later, the Zarashi homeworld was shaken by rebellion. A rogue dragon, calling herself Ember Flameborn, broadcast a message to all slave worlds. "I was starved, broken, and discarded. A human girl fed me scraps and called me family. Now I return to burn every chain." They say her fire turned warships into ashes. They say the poor waitress stood beside her, blaster in one hand, kitchen scars on the other. They say the two were never separated again.